Okay. All right. Another beautiful day. Um, let me. Okay. Now that I tuned myself, I have to feel you have lost your mind. That's what a lot of people would say, right? Feel you have lost your mind, and that's. Let me tell you, I have done this on purpose many times throughout my life, where I purposely go and allow my mind to blow up and explode and lose myself. And then when I lose myself, I take some time to recollect myself back in. and and sometimes when I blow up my mind so far and I start collecting the pieces back in, I find new pieces that I never knew existed. And I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know that was there. So when I put it back in, I'm like, whoa, that actually, like, I mean, there's something to it, right? I mean, a lot of people when they do psychedelics, they blow up their mind so much, but I feel like many of them don't allow themselves the time um, to recollect and reintegrate all that happened to them, right? They go back to their routine very quickly, and usually when you go back to a routine life, you close up again in this narrow box, and you're like, oh, this is my life. This is all these things that I have to do. These are all my clients I have to see. These are all I have to take care of my kids. I have to take them to school. I have to feed. What am I gonna eat today? And you become like narrowed again, right? So I purposely allow myself. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky, and I'm so grateful that I could have a few months where I could just meditate and allow my mind to blow up, blow up, and talk about the stupid things, right? Like what is air? Like what is time? What is truth? I feel like I never really could find anybody to talk about those topics, right? So I guess I could entertain myself and talk about them. uh, but yeah, it's I and I've studied shamanism for a long time, and I've realized the shamans are the people that can navigate both realms, like the seen and the unseen. And and I've realized that the more I'm able to go and lose myself into the realm of the unseen, like I mean, I'll talk about this in another video, but um, and I've waited a long time to bring up this topic of not only psychedelics, but also I did a dark room retreat. I've done a Vipassana retreat for 10 days. And without having any psychedelics, I've been able to experience full-on five-dimensional realities in my mind without really taking any substance. So I know psychedelics are a way that you could tap into that source of spontaneous altered state, but there's also other ways that you could tap into that, sometimes through meditation. um, I put myself in a dark room for 5 nights with little food, and that was like a whole experience. That I did that in 2020, but it's every time I go back to that event, I'm able to extract something new, because there's so much that happened in those 5 days that I could really spend the rest of my life talking about those 5 days. Uh, the same way with the reason why I let my mind blow up is because the more I'm able to expand, and sometimes it's painful. Sometimes that explosion really hurts, and I'm like, fuck. And just like Kundalini, right? If you do meditation, if you do it for a long time, I felt like during my retreat, my head was gonna blow up. For some reason, that energy just kept rising and rising. And it felt like the heaviest migraine that I had, just because I was not allowing my head to just open up and blow up like the flower of life, right? That blows up here and just showers you. So I was kind of stuck right here, just like, oh, I fear that mostly it's fear what doesn't allow people to let their minds blow up, right? They don't want to open themselves up because they fear that whatever they believed was them, they will not be able to recover. And most people don't, right? You see a lot of homeless people on the street where their minds just blow up and they're out there, you know? Oh shit, he's off the deep end. And that's really the deep dive, right? You go off the deep end and you're not able to come back. The same way when I was learning how to free dive, when you go so deep underwater on only one breath, you are really just learning to trust yourself and to know how far you could go. But sometimes your ego, right? Sometimes your ego keeps on taking you further and further down where you're not able to come back to the surface. and that's really, I could kind of use that analogy to explain a psychedelic experience, right? Sometimes we get so addicted to taking ayahuasca. You know, I see so many people like, oh, I'm gonna do ayahuasca or take a bunch of mushrooms every day or every other day or whatever. I get hooked on that to where I almost like rely on the substance to keep my boost of happiness or happy hormones or whatever, pull me out of the depression that I am. And sometimes I might do that too much to where I don't allow myself enough time to recover, right? So I always float up in space in this etheric realm, and not really connect to the people around me. Um, so I do understand there's time for both, right? There's time to where I can allow that to happen and reintegrate myself back into myself, weave everything and all those experiences that happened in my head to kind of weave them and thread them back to my consciousness and put them back together, integrate them into my body, right? And it takes some effort, takes some contemplation, takes some sitting in one place and thinking about what happened, right? A traumatic event happens in your life for you to really sit down and think about the meaning behind that event, right? The purpose behind that event. Sometimes we get attached to our trauma so much that we can't really let go of that idea or the trauma that we've had. And sometimes a psychedelic event might be very traumatic for some to where they completely ignore what just happened, right? They're like, oh yeah, that was just like hallucination. That was not even real, right? They dismiss that. But if you're able to weave that experience and integrate it within yourself, then when I read ancient literature like Dante's Inferno or Homer's Iliad or the Odyssey or anything I read for that matter, I am able to understand more about what I read now. It's almost like whoa, did I write this for myself to understand now? Because before I was reading books and I wasn't really grasping what people were trying to say in those books. But now when I read the Odyssey, for example, and I've read it before in the past, but rereading that has opened new perspectives, right? New things that I see. The whole journey of Odysseus, right? Or Ulysses, or however you say it. his whole journey is in a way I see myself in that journey through life, right? Um, so today I wanted to briefly kind of tap in on the subject of truth. What is truth? How can I distinguish what truth is, and how do I know what is false? And I have to understand that truth is not something that I could really grasp. In order for me to, and this is only my opinion, right? I'm also not attached to the ideas that I have today, because I know that everything that I hold to be true today is actually half false. Everything that I speak today has some truth to it and some flawed. It's flawed, and usually half of it's true and half of it's flawed. And I also have to understand that about myself, right? The only way for me to understand what truth really is I have to become truth myself. So in order for me to know what truth is, I have to become truth. Well, Phil, how do you become truth, Phil? How do you become that? How do you become truth? And unless I die and vanish and disappear and become one with everything, I can't really describe what truth really is. I could come as close as my human mind and my perception and my beliefs allow me to elaborate what truth is. But the ultimate truth, I would not really understand until I become one with the all, right? Until I merge back with the nothingness that created me and go back to empty space, where I came from, right? That's when I'll know what truth really is. But just to put in other perspective, the reason why I'm saying that every truth that I have today is half false. Why do I say that? Let's think about this. So I'm looking at a tree, right? And when I start questioning what is a tree, what is a tree? Is it a growth from the ground that has branches, that has leaves, that has stems, that gives fruit to things, that has roots in the ground? What consists a tree? Is the tree by itself just floating in space, or is it connected to everything else around it, right? Is the tree connected to the earth? So when I speak of a tree, am I also speaking of the earth that the tree is connected to? If I'm looking at a crystal clear lake, am I talking just about the lake, or the reservoir, the shape of the reservoir that the lake takes, also the soil that the lake touches, also how the soil is connected also to another swamp, for example, right? So this pristine lake, this crystal clear lake of glacier water, is also somehow connected to a dirty swamp, right? And in a way, in this duality that we all live in, right? We all live in this dualistic world. For the reason to understand that everything is connected, right? Everything is interconnected. we're all like Indra's net. If you've studied ancient philosophy, you know that Indra's net is this giant, almost like a fishing net. Imagine a giant fishing net, and every little piece of the net is connected to another piece, and every piece of the net could be the center of existence. So in a way, I am the center of my existence, of this encapsulating this body, and in a way everybody else is the center of their existence. And I'm connected to things, and things are connected to me. I'm looking from my center, but also somebody else is looking from their center, right? Their perspective is different than mine. My perspective is different than theirs. A tree's perspective is different than my perspective. But yet we're somehow connected, right? I am walking on the same earth that this tree is growing from. So in a way, that tree is connected to everything else. The same way that night is, I'll use this analogy just because it's easy to explain. The night is connected to the day, right? One holds the other to some extent, right? The night really holds the day until the day kind of blooms into existence, right? And then before the night comes back, the day is kind of holding space for the night before it comes. The same way that life, for example, life is really holding death, and death is the cause of life, and life is the cause of death. In the same way that truth is also holding to some extent some flaws, and then these flaws are also to some level containing some truth in them. So have you heard the expression like every saying has some truth in it? Even though that whatever that person said might be dumb and doesn't make sense, or people say read between the lines, right? There's some truth to everything. There's some truth to everything. Even to the most false thing, there is some truth in that thing if you're willing to go and seek that truth, right? So how do you become a seeker of truth? How do you seek truth? How do you seek light, right? How do you, or is everything that you see darkness, right? Are you living in darkness, or are you a light seeker? Do you want to seek the light? Do you want to seek the truth, right? Same thing. How a higher frequency or higher energy has within itself a low frequency, right? The low frequency had to become a high frequency, and the high frequency sometimes becomes low frequency. It's one contains the other. They're not really separated, right? I feel, let's say for myself, I feel at a low vibration now some days, and then some days I feel like really at a high vibration. I feel like love and freedom and joy and bliss, right? But then some other days I feel like sadness and despair and maybe guilt or maybe some shame, maybe, and all those frequencies are really part of the same scale, right? They're all connected. They're not different. They're all really the same thing, and we could all learn to be on the scale. Where on the scale am I today? Where on the scale am I today? Closer to truth or closer to falsehood, right? Where on the scale am I? And that's really a state. The way I could describe that is it really is a state of being where I'm able to understand more about truth. right? If I'm being honest with myself at all times, if I'm being genuine, right? If I'm being real, if I'm being myself, right? Sometimes it's hard to be yourself, and you're kind of putting these masks in order to please somebody, or get something out of somebody, or pretend that you are nice, right? Because people always want to be nice. But the truth is, you don't have to be nice. You don't have to be. Just be yourself. Be yourself. Be yourself. And the more yourself you are, the more, I would say, the more you would understand what truth is. So in a way, the more real you are with yourself, and honest, and don't hold anything back, and pure, allow yourself to happen, right? Allow this to happen, and not hold any judgments against yourself, or anybody else for that matter. And that is when you could understand more about what truth is. How do you become truth, right? How do you become truth? And one of the ways I felt like, for me, it's helped me to gauge that, to gauge where on the scale I am, is to detach myself from all the beliefs that I hold today about myself, and about everything else that's around me, about the people that are around me. I may think that, oh, these people are dumb, or these people are smart, or, man, I don't want to be around certain energies, right? I want to be around these energies. And if I hold these beliefs about, if I hold those beliefs inside myself, then I don't really allow for things around me to naturally evolve and change, right? If I keep somebody in a box of descriptions that I have of that person, let's say, oh yeah, they're just that. I have a description for them, and I put them in this kind of, like, just so I could grasp it inside my mind, I categorize somebody, right? I put him in this box, and then by putting him in this box, it's almost like I'm putting chains over them, not really allowing them to grow. Especially if I'm seeing that individual every single day, and I keep categorizing it just so it's convenient for me to grasp what that individual is. Let's say I'm talking about my child, for example, right? Ooh, I know my child so well. I tell him when to eat, I tell him how to exercise, I tell him what to study, all this stuff. And I'm having all these expectations of this child. Oh yeah, I'm gonna train him to be a wrestler, for example. I'm gonna train this child to be a wrestler. I'm gonna have these expectations, and he's gonna have straight A's in school and all this stuff, and it's all gonna be good, right? I'm gonna invest a lot of time and put all this energy into shaping this child the way that I believe is appropriate for society, and I am almost like putting this child in this box. And I'm not allowing the space for growth and change. The same way I'm not allowing the space for myself to let go of my beliefs. Whatever I think is true today holds half lies. Whatever thing that I say today, that I believe today, might change tomorrow. And that's scary, right? That's scary because whoever I think that I am today might be completely different person tomorrow. And I feel like the only way for me to allow for this change to happen is to say, I don't know. I don't know what truth is. All I could do is just be myself. And be real, whether that is being nice or being mean. Just be myself and fully allow myself to express without holding anything, without trying to emulate or be somebody, without um, trying to copy or impress anybody. Just be myself for the sake of being myself. Just be fully relaxed into my body and soul, and speak from a place of not really caring, um, not really judging myself, how I say things or how I do things. I just do them because just being myself, just being myself. Um, and that's what I wanted to meditate today on. And just like a child, I allow myself to be inspired about um, recording these videos, be inspired until the point where I get bored of it, and I'm like, why am I even doing this? what's the point? Am I doing this to capture somebody's attention? Am I doing this to see how I express myself or how I sound? And what is the reason, right? What is the reason? Um, and I look for inspiration, right? I look for the inspiration to strike. And when the inspiration strikes, um, sometimes I can't even sleep at night. I'm like, dude, these ideas are running wild and they have to be out there. Either I record them in my book or I have to speak them out, but they have to somehow get out of me. Unload them, get out of myself. And whatever the purpose is for that, I'm not even sure, but I have to unload those ideas, right? So with today's meditation, I want to just tune in to myself, just relax any part that I sense within myself. Let the air that I breathe in just relax every little part of myself. Starting from my feet, going up to my knees, my hips, my sexual organs, my hips, my stomach, my diaphragm, my chest, my shoulders, my elbows, my wrists, my fingers, going up to my neck, my face, my forehead, my hair, my ears, my neck. Just fully relaxing my whole body. Fully allowing myself to not know what truth is. I don't know. I don't know what truth is. And any idea that I hold today, anything that I call myself today, maybe I am a vegan, right? Maybe I am a carnivore. Maybe I am a dad. Maybe I am a son. Maybe I am a boss, a leader, right? Just for the sake of this exercise, for the next 5 minutes, I allow myself to not be anything. I am nothing. I don't know what I am. After these 5 minutes, I could put on all these responsibilities back up again and go back out in the world and be whoever I thought I was. But just for the sake of this exercise, just release all these expectations that I have of myself. Just for these couple minutes, allow myself to not really know what I am. I don't really know what truth really is. I am surrounded by information around me all the time. Not just from the social media or the news that I watch, but information comes in the form of the air that I breathe, the conversations that I have with people, the ground that I walk on. Information comes through the things that I see and the things that I don't see as well. So, in a way, I open myself up to the possibility that I don't know what truth really is when it comes to me. All I could do is I could pray for wisdom that allows me to distinguish and allows me to operate without holding any judgment or any criticism about the way I do things. But do them realizing that I do things because I want to do them. And I also have to acknowledge what are the things that I'm doing that I don't want to do. What is that thing that I'm doing that I don't want to do? Maybe it's an exercise that I don't want to do. Maybe it's a diet that I don't want to follow. Maybe it's somebody's energy that I don't want to be in. I also have to acknowledge that about myself too, and understand why I don't want to do those things. There's got to be a reason why it doesn't feel good to do those things. What is the belief that I hold that tell me that doing things I don't like are good for me? What is that belief that tells me that whatever I'm doing that doesn't feel good is actually good for me? Is that the truth? It could be. I have to realize that if I am confused with the way things are, if I'm not feeling like I am myself, if I'm not feeling like I am fully expressing myself and fully being the best version of myself for the people around me, I might have to do things that I don't like in order to have that different perception, to have a different point of view. But going back to truth, what does truth feel like? If I'm holding the sword, if I'm holding the sword of 1,000 truths, would I be able to carry that sword? Or is it going to be difficult for me to be truthful all the time and speak my truth all the time and be the true version of myself all the time? If that is difficult to do, I will most likely not be able to pick up that sword of a thousand truths. This reminds me of South Park. Can I be real with the people around me? Can I fully express, or am I afraid of the criticism that I'll receive? Is there any value in me being truthful? Can I speak up and say the truth to my boss? Or am I going to fear that I'll get fired? Can I speak the truth to my brother or my parents or my friends? Can I tell them the truth? Or would I lie to them just to make them feel happy? What is more beneficial? Would my boss appreciate me being truthful, even if that is difficult to do? What am I lying about to myself and to everybody else? Am I hiding something about myself that I don't want anybody to see? What is that? What am I hiding in the closet that nobody sees? What am I hiding in the closet that nobody sees? Because I know the truth is, no one really cares to keep track of what I do and how truthful I am and how I speak. Nobody really knows if I am lying or if I'm telling the truth or if I'm doing something. And the only person that keeps track is myself. I'm the only one that knows whether I was being real or if I were being fake. If I was trying to copy and mimic somebody else instead of truly being myself. I am the only one that keeps track of all of those things. So to close up this meditation, I would like to let go of all the expectations that I have been holding with myself and allow my truth to be flexible. Allow myself to be myself. I give permission to myself to express fully how I feel, regardless of whether that is truth or not truth, because I can't really judge myself for speaking something that I know, for having an idea that might change tomorrow. I am letting go of the idea and expectation that I hold of myself and the image that I created for myself. Because I don't really know what truth really is. If I had to imagine what truth really is, what would that be? What would truth really be? What is the frequency of truth? How would truth come out of my mouth? What would the energy sound like when I speak truth? How would this truth resonate with the rest of my body when I speak it? Is truth a high frequency and high vibration, or is truth a low, shameful, fearful energy that I feel? What is speaking the truth making me feel? How does truth feel when I express it? Does truth liberate my existence? Does truth free my body? Does truth penetrate every cell of my body? And I understand I don't really know what truth is. All I can really do is be as truthful as I possibly. All I can do is try. All I can do is try to be myself and try to be truthful and honest with myself at all times when no one's watching. Being radically honest with myself when no one is paying attention to me. That is when I could get closer and closer to what truth really is. And with that, slowly we're gonna open up. What is truth? I'll tell you something. Sometimes when I think about these big topics and everything else melts away. All my worries and fears and anxieties and responsibilities, everything just melts away. When I stop holding those ideas that I have about myself, I'm able to fully allow myself to experience the beauty of life. Just me existing now. Me existing now and being able to breathe, right? It's those simple things that are really free. They're really free. Me able to listen to the birds. Me able to see light and to see colors and to see growth and to see magic. All those things are free. I don't have to pay for those things. We're so conditioned to think that we have to pay for our happiness, right? We have to pay for our joy. We have to pay for our success. But my truth today is that all those things are free. All those things are free. All those things are abundant everywhere. I see abundance here everywhere. I see millions of leaves everywhere. I see unlimited supply of air everywhere. I see billions of strings of grass everywhere. I see life everywhere. And all those things are free. All those things are free. Yeah. Love you guys. Wish whoever's listening to this, again, I'm not trying to do these videos for any particular reason, but just for the sake of doing them. I capture the inspiration and I do them. And whoever's meant to see that information will see it. And whoever resonates with this information will resonate with it. That's not for me to not for me to worry about. Really not for me to worry about. I just put myself in a state of being, and I try to do everything that I do in my life from this state of being. So much love, peace. Hope everybody's having a beautiful day. Until next time.